The sun hung high over downtown, Chicago casting sharp reflections off glass towers as the courthouse plaza buzzed with midday movement and food carts and hurried lawyers and tourists with phones raised, and in the middle of it all a thin janitor in a faded blue uniform pushed a squeaking cart, his grey hair tucked under a cap, his eyes lowered as if he had learned long ago that looking up only invited trouble. And as he wiped marble steps that security guards marched back and forth guarding a private military charity event inside the building where generals, donors and officials gathered, and the janitor paused to adjust a loose wheel when a guard barked at him to move faster and another accused him of lingering too close to restricted doors. And before the old man could explain that he had been assigned this section, rough hands grabbed his arms and twisted them behind his back, and the cart tipped, spilling rags and a mop bucket across the bright stone, and people stopped, some watching with curiosity, others with discomfort, as the guard shouted that the janitor was trespassing and might be a threat. And the old man tried to speak, his voice calm but tired, saying he had clearance papers in his locker and that he had served this building for years, but the guards did not listen because uniforms, like his, rarely carried authority, and they dragged him across the plaza in full daylight, his shoes scraping, his cap falling off to reveal thinning silver hair and a small scar above his brow, and whispers spread like heat ripples, some laughing, some filming, some shaking their heads. And inside the courthouse, a young woman in a simple navy dress stepped out, flanked by aides, her posture confident, yet her eyes searching, as she had arrived to honor her father, a decorated general who was being awarded for lifetime service. And she paused when she heard shouting and saw the small crowd, and then she saw the janitor's face, and something in her chest cracked open because she recognized that scar and that tired, steady gaze, and the world seemed to tilt as memories flooded back of dusty bases and quiet evenings, and a man lifting her onto his shoulders when she was small and teaching her how to tie her boots and saluting her with a wink, and without thinking she ran forward, her heels clicking hard on stone, her voice breaking through the noise as she cried out his name loud and clear and full of disbelief and love and pain. And the guards froze mid-step because authority in her voice carried weight, and she reached the janitor, grabbing his arms, pulling him free, shouting for them to let go, and the crowd fell silent as she stood between them, tears in her eyes, saying this man was her father's closest friend, the man who had saved her life overseas, the man who had carried wounded soldiers under fire, and who, after retiring quietly, took this janitor job because he believed in honest work and staying invisible. And the guards stammered, trying to apologize as color drained from their faces, and phones lowered, and whispers turned to gasps, and the old janitor looked at her with gentle surprise and pride, and said her name softly like a blessing, and she hugged him right there in the bright Chicago sun, not caring about protocol or cameras. And she turned to the crowd, explaining that this man had once outranked many in the room, but never demanded respect, and that dignity was not measured by uniforms or titles. And her words spread faster than any rumor, and soon officials rushed out, and the general himself emerged, seeing the scene and snapping to attention before his old comrade, saluting him with shaking hands. And the plaza erupted into applause, not for medals or speeches, but for a quiet man who swept floors in daylight and carried honor like a shadow. And as the janitor picked up his fallen cap, smiling humbly, the young woman wiped her tears and thanked him for teaching her what kindness looked like. And the story ended there in the open sun, with a lesson no one forgot. And if this story touched your heart, then like, share and subscribe to my channel, Soul of Kindness, for more powerful stories that remind us of humanity and respect. And do not forget to support Soul of Kindness by liking, sharing and subscribing, because kindness deserves a voice.